today, and Father, just a beautiful day altogether. Lord, just ask that tonight as we go over our business with the district, Father, just pray that you just give us direction, give us guidance. Father, just continue to lift up all of our district employees, our families, the students. Father, we just know that even in these crazy and different times, Lord, that you're still in control. And we just look for directions, and we just pray that the things that are said and done tonight, we bring glory and honor to you. And we just ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
At this time, in accordance with the board will provide an audience with individuals who have signed up prior to the meeting to address the board. Mr. Atkins will serve as our timekeeper. And for those requesting to speak, please note comments are limited to a maximum of 5 minutes per speaker with a maximum of 30 minutes total allotted. For public comment, delegations of more than 5 shall appoint a representative to present their views to the board. The board will not entertain negative comments on individual personnel or students in public sessions. Patrons are encouraged to use appropriate campus and administration channels before bringing concerns to the attention of the board. And board members are not allowed to deliberate, discuss, or make decisions regarding the subject not included on the agenda, on the posted agenda. We do have 3 who have signed up to speak this evening. Mr. Bonner, Mr. Wendell, and Mr. Sidney. And they are, actually all 3 have different topics. So, Mr. Bonner.
Good evening to Superintendent Massey, Board Chairman, Mr. Howard. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak. My name is Eric Bonner, Brazosport class of 1989, Texas A&M class of 1993. Got some people in here. All right, so I'm here, and I always say you should ask first, right? So the ask for me is I'm asking you as the board to consider naming the new Brazosport multi-sport facility after my recently deceased uncle, Alfred Lee Bonner. Some of you know him as Coach Bonner, and I'm not up here alone. I've got a contingent of folks who are here with me today. Everybody who's here that's with me supporting Alfred Lee, we've got some folks here, family members. Hey, you guys stand up. We got some family members here, but we're all here. This is a family thing. So, you know, when we sat and we talked about it, you know, Alfred Lee passed, and, you know, I don't live in the area anymore. I grew up at 425 Cobb Street. Mr. Atkins was the mayor, along with my dad, Wilbur Bonner, on city council for many, many years, I think 20 plus if I'm correct. But I drove back from Dallas because I felt like this was important enough for you to consider. You know, I was talking to a classmate of mine, I was talking about Alfred Lee, and I said, do you remember my uncle? Do you remember him? And she looked at me, she goes, well, I'm sorry, but I don't remember him. And she called me a couple days later, and she said, you didn't tell me your uncle was Coach Bonner. Well, of course he was Coach Bonner. And so, you know, as we think about it, that's kind of the impact that he's had on the community. You know, we heard people talk about, you know, maybe over 10,000 students that passed through Rasco Elementary were impacted by him. You know, because so I sat back and I thought about it. I was taking my walk, you know, you get closer to 50, you got to try to stay in shape. So, you know, round is a shape, regardless of what some people would tell you. So I was out for my walk and I thought about it. I said, you know, how does he, you know, embody the name Brazosport? So if you'll just indulge me for just a second. So, you know, he bore the responsibility of loving and caring for all students in the community, all students in the school, from Anderson to Zuniga, right? Or he took the opportunity to support the children, whether that be as they're playing athletics or reciting a poem. See, because he took the time out of his life to dedicate to the students of this school district. For 19 years, he was an administrator at Rasco Elementary, also was Fluke Intermediate as a football coach. Now, I think you'd be hard-pressed to go through this community and find anybody that came in contact with Coach Bonner who didn't have something positive to say about him. So I think to honor his memory, to honor his legacy, I think it would be outstanding if the board would give serious consideration to naming the new facility, the Brazosport multi-sport facility, in the name of Coach Alfred Lee Bonner. Thank you for your time.
Next one who signed up, actually got the names out of line, or out of order, but Mr. Bryce Sidney.
Good evening to the board and all attendees, Superintendent Massey and President Howard. I am Bryce Sidney, a former student at Brazosport High School and senior class president of the class of 2020. I am here this evening to talk to the board about changing the current name of Owen Roberts Elementary School. I attended Owen Roberts Elementary School for 2nd through 4th grade. I love the atmosphere there and the teachers were outstanding. As a child, I was always interested in history and learning in general. Education is such a powerful tool that can be used in a positive way, and because of this, learning history not only became easy to me, but I also understood it was important to learn so we do not repeat the problems of the past. By the time I reached Brazosport High School, I knew more about myself and the world. I realized that the way I had seen the world when I was young and how I lived in it had changed from how I see it in elementary school. Throughout my years at Warren Roberts, it was my school. But later, I realized that the place I called school, my school, was named after the elected president of the Texas Secession Convention that ultimately withdrew Texas from the United States. From my understanding, when I was a child, every monument, statue, and naming of an edifice was preserved for the people that had passed away who made an exceptional and extraordinary difference in our community in a positive way. Warren Roberts was the sole Texas representative to the United States when Texas seceded. He was proud to keep people and children that looked like me in captivity to stop them from learning. He was proud to keep young adults that looked like me from white schools and universities. He was proud of it all. Its foundations are laid, its cornerstone rests upon the great truth that the black is not equal to the white man, that slavery, subordination to the superior race, is his natural and normal condition. This, our new government, is the first in the history of the world based upon this great, physical, philosophical, and moral truth, that from which I am quoting was the cornerstone of the Vice President. A few weeks before the Civil War commenced, the Confederacy didn't consider us human beings and empowered themselves as superior. This is the exact same diction that was used by the people of Nazi Germany. From Texas' Declaration of Causes of Secession, they said the following: "We hold as undeniable truths that the governments of the various states and of the Confederacy itself were established exclusively by the white race, for themselves and their posterity, that the African race had no agency in the establishment, that they were rightfully held and regarded as an inferior independent race, and in that condition only could their existence in this country be rendered beneficial or tolerable. So the Confederacy was established exclusively for the white race, and that black people were regarded, in quotes, as inferior and independent race, and only could their existence in this country be rendered as beneficial or tolerable. Were my ancestors only beneficial or even tolerable when they were slaves? Thankfully, these ideals are no longer true in our society today. Most schools have been integrated for over 50 years. I am a prime example of that, being selected as the class president of 2020 at Brazosport High School. For these reasons, I believe that the school name should be changed and be reflected by Texas or local community members or symbols that reflect inclusion and that says we are all in this together. You may be wondering what will happen to the children that went to Warren Roberts Elementary School and how they will think about the name change. Well, I am that student. The black kid that went to Warren Roberts Elementary and had to learn that my elementary school was named after a racist. The place that I felt was important to my education, make meaningful friendships, and learn from my amazing teachers for my future. All changed when I learned that my elementary school was named after a human being like that. It never stopped me from pursuing my best dreams in education and learning. But now I have the history of going to an elementary school named after a guy like that. But not only your black students know, but also your other minority students know that you are with them. Support them all equally and expect the same ISD exceptional performance that your motto, vision, beliefs, and goals stand for. I would also like to note that the memories I have there will always be memories regardless of the name. While I am concerned for the future students that will realize their elementary school was named after someone that thought of them as less than when they should feel proud of the school that they attended. These are two quotes by Dr. Martin Luther King, which I think is appropriate to think about during this time of considering the change. The time is always right to do what is right, and faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. So do what is right and make the first step. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sidney. Our third speaker is Mr. Louis Mendel.
President Atkins, and I'm the Board of Trustees. It's my honor, my privilege, and my pleasure to be in front of you all to have an opportunity to speak. I just have basically two questions, or two items, in the form of a question and also a request. One with our new school year.
You speak a little closer to the mic so we hear you.
Yes. With the new school year beginning, under the environment of COVID-19, I was curious if the school teachers in classroom settings will be eligible for hazardous pay duty benefits. It'd be a question that could be answered in the future. Secondly, part of that same question is, if they are eligible, I would like to see if those benefits could be also offered to the school bus drivers, as they have a similar environment, face-to-face contact. My other request is the fact that our school teachers in the state of Texas have an excellent optional insurance, liability insurance offering, which is TCTA, that is available to school teachers and certified substitute teachers. I'd like to see if that insurance, that liability insurance program, can be made available to the school bus drivers of this district. Those are the two items I'd like to discuss. I'm happy to. Thank you for your time.
All right. Next item on our agenda is our consent agenda. Are there any items requested to be pulled from the consent agenda? Yes, sir.
I would like to pull item B for
Item B.
finance.
Okay.
I like to.
Yes, sir. All right, we'll pull item B from the consent agenda. Are there any other items to be pulled before moving on? All right, if not, then do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda unless item B? Second.
So,
It's been moved and seconded. It's been moved by Mr. Atkins and seconded by Mr. Dunn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed by nay. All right, that carries. The next item that we have are our action items. Action item A, breakfast and lunch meal prices for the school year 2020-2021. Ms. Rachel.
Good evening. In accordance with Board Policy COP Legal, it is my pleasure to present to you tonight proposed meal pricing for the 2020-21 school year. Keep in mind that paid lunch equity pricing is for our traditional pricing schools. For school year 2021, our Freeport feeder pattern will remain on CEP, or Community Eligibility Provision. This is the program that allows these schools, as they qualify for it, for students to eat breakfast and lunch for free. At campuses that operate the National School Lunch and Breakfast programs, USDA mandates that districts raise lunch prices annually until the district paid meal price meets or exceeds the difference between the free meal reimbursement rate and the paid meal reimbursement rate, which is currently $3.09. That's what's on the screen. This requirement came into effect July 1st of 2011. BISD has remained in compliance by raising meal prices by the minimum required each year since with the board's approval. This does not affect the free or reduced rates as set by USDA. Reduced price will remain 40 cents for lunch. This calculation shows that we will need to increase our prices for the 2021 school year. On line 1, you see that our average weighted price for this past year was $2.69. On line 2, the weighted average price requirement for this coming year is calculated by multiplying the number of meals we served this last October by the current pricing for each grade group. Line 3 shows the difference between last year and this year and the required increase of 10 cents. Elementary paid price would increase from $2.55 to $2.65, and secondary would increase from $2.80 to $2.90. To comply with the USDA mandate, it is my recommendation that the board approve meal pricing as presented for school year 2021. But wait. First, I want to give you a quick update on what we've been up to. We began an adventure that none of us saw coming on March 16th. With courage, bravery, and a passion to feed children, our team showed up the Monday after spring break in full force as we began our curbside and Meals on the Move bus to provide meals for families while school was closed. Many of our families worry about where their meals will come from when school is out, but this was different. Not only was there the normal stress, but add on top, store shelves were bare where there once was milk, eggs, and bread. Parents lost jobs as many businesses had to close their doors. There was so much more to worry about than school being out. We knew that we had to feed our families, we just had to figure out how. We quickly came up with a plan that included 3 curbside locations and our Meals on the Move bus. On average, we served 5,000 meals a day, each meal cooked, packaged, and served with a special kind of love that only a lunch lady can give. In May, our team received the Setting the Standard Award, and I couldn't be more proud to work alongside them. They very quickly fired me from the kitchen, but I was like the all-star runner of meals to the party. We are incredibly thankful to the district for the awesome recognition. It means so much to each and every one of us. We're proud to report that since we began this, we have served approximately 350,000 meals. Curbside service went through July 16th, but we continue to serve Boys and Girls Club through the end of July. Our promise and commitment remains to continue to seek out all opportunities and programs that will benefit our students in BISD. With that, we shift to the start of the new year and the new adventures that will bring us. We are looking forward to serving all of our learners, virtual and face-to-face, when school starts, and to help support all of our students in their learning process. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about meal pricing or COVID meals. As stated earlier, meal pricing must increase this year to remain in compliance at campuses that utilize traditional meal pricing. To comply with the USDA mandate, it's the administration's recommendation that the board approve meal pricing as presented for school year 2021. Thank you.
At this time, we will now allow public comment from individuals that is signed up prior to the meeting. Anybody have any questions about this item before we move on? All right, then do I have a motion to approve as
I just want
presented?
to congratulate her. They did an amazing job. They shut down a couple campuses because of some issues and moved them and reopened them and never skipped a beat. There were people from all over the community coming to them and did an amazing job in a very short amount of time with very limited resources and kept the crew and the team safe and did a good job keeping everybody updated, educated where we were going to be and how we were going to be. And so, congratulations.
early childhood and college, career, and military readiness student outcome goals. Ms. Clarissa Davis.
Good evening, members of the board and audience. This presentation aligns with our board policy BAA legal, the requirements under House Bill 386 legislature, and our district goal BISD will provide a rigorous and relevant learning experience to ensure every student will be future ready. Tonight, we have the privilege of presenting 3 proposed student outcome goals that go through the requirements of House Bill 3 and align with our work over the past 3 years to include literacy, math, and college, career, and military readiness. Let's start with the why. School boards adopt at least 3 student outcome goals, one in early childhood literacy, which must be aligned to 3rd grade STAR results, one in early childhood math, which must be aligned to 3rd grade STAR results, and the other one is the college, career, military readiness goals that are aligned to graduates that meet readiness requirements. The title, Early Childhood Literacy and Math, is very misleading. The point is, the early childhood results are not reflected until our students take the STAR test in 3rd grade. So the question becomes, are our early childhood programs providing sufficient preparation to launch success as reflected on the STAR test? And how can we amply prepare our students to be grade level ready? Well, here's how. We first begin by setting goals. The school board works collaboratively with Mr. Massey to set the goals, and we closely monitor those goals continuously. Our challenge is closing the achievement gaps for each of our student groups. If we are a district that prides the philosophy all means all, then the data has to reflect that in each of our student groups. We set progress measures and report those measures throughout the year, unless we have a coronavirus that prohibits the reporting. And additionally, our campuses use the district goals and progress measure to set their own student target groups in order to help the district reach the overall goals and targets. This sets the stage to engage in professional development activities for teachers and staff within the actions identified by each campus to meet the campus and district goals and targets. Targeted professional development is a requirement for classroom teachers in kindergarten through 3rd grade for campuses that the board identifies as not meeting the plan's goals. The targeted professional development must consider the unique needs of the students in bilingual education or special language programs. One recommendation is for our board to satisfy the requirement by participating in the reading impact that is required by House Bill 3 for kindergarten through 3rd grade teachers and principals. We will begin this year with Cohort 1 training for kindergarten through 2nd grade starting in August. The goal is to have all kindergarten through 3rd grade teachers and principals trained by the year 2023. I want to give you just a little quick review, as any reading teacher would. Let's start with the vocabulary. This slide is to provide us with a review, and it states, for a child to perform at an approaches level, it simply means that they have the knowledge and skills needed to be at the next grade level for support and intervention. A student performing at the meets level means that the student has the skills needed for the next grade level with minimum support needed. As we bring our goals to you tonight, this year for the first time, we'll be setting targets not at the approaches level as before, but at the meets level. To understand what this looks like, for example, an A is the equivalent to 90% for students reaching the approaches level. An A is the equivalent to 60% for students reaching the meets level. For our district early literacy goals, the percentage of students that score meets grade level will increase from 46% to 54%. Remember, this goal goal is set on the meets grade level standard, not like our previous goals that were set on the approaches grade level. And this is much harder to obtain. Remember, 60% makes an A at the meets grade level. The targets we've set will result in a 7-point improvement in our state accountability score for third grade reading. So we're 1% above the state. We want to exceed that, but we felt that this goal was reasonable. We call it a SMART goal because it is reasonable and attainable. This slide illustrates the targets of each of our 9 elementary campuses. As you can see at the top, Brandon Elementary is currently performing at 64% and has a target set at 70%, which will ensure an accountability rating of 91 to 93. As you go to the next line in the table, you can see that OG is currently performing at 35% and has a 5-year goal set at 54%, giving them an accountability rating of 60 to 82. As you continue down the table, you can see how each campus has set the targets they are trying to achieve in a 5-year period. Now at this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Cole to come and set our goals for numeracy or math.
Good evening. This slide shows the proposed early numeracy district goal. As a district, 59% of our students who reach the rigorous meets grade level performance is 10 percentage points above the state average of 49% already. We are already setting the standard in early numeracy. Our hope is over the next 5 years to broaden this gap even further by aiming for a goal of 63% of our students reaching the meets grade level performance of third grade start. This slide will show you the goals proposed by each campus to help us achieve the proposed district goals. Each campus's goal will take an increase in their accountability target to the equivalent of an A. At this time, Assistant Superintendent Ron Redden will share with you the college career and military readiness goals.
College career and military readiness indicators were first measured in the 2017 state accountability system. That year, 42% of graduating seniors had accomplished at least one of the CCMR areas you see listed on this slide. By 2019, that percentage had increased by 17% to 59%. That 59% does not include 89 students, or 6% of graduates who did not attain the CCMR area, but who did earn a half point for having taken a coherent sequence CTE course that was aligned with earning an industry-based certification. That allowance, which was in effect for 3 years, ended this past year and will no longer be included in the CCMR calculations. For that reason, we're setting our baseline for the goal at 59%, not 65%. As you study the slide, you can see that there are several ways a student can earn CCMR credit. The most prevalent ways we see in our district are meeting the Texas Success Initiative criteria, meeting criteria on an advanced placement exam, earning dual credit, or earning an industry-based certification. We do have students who meet the other qualifiers, including 49 2019 graduates who indicated they were enlisting in the military. A committee of 24 persons representing both the campuses and central office, who all have a role in assigning, monitoring, and helping students to complete at least one of the CCMR criteria, met to develop the CCMR 5-year goal. The committee set the targets based on the 2019 baseline of 59%. The committee was committed to setting targets that would render a state accountability score of an A, but would also take into account the dip we anticipate for 2020 CCMR attainment due to COVID-19, and the time it will take for students who would have otherwise earned credit as a freshman, sophomore, or junior last year, but who will have to do that over the next 1 to 3 years to earn that credit. We fully expect to be back on growth track by 2022. As I prepare to present the CCMR goal to you, I ask you to keep in mind that the CCMR targets are based on the graduates, not all high school students. The proposed goal for college, career, and military readiness is the percentage of graduates that meet the criteria for CCMR will increase from 59% to 65% by August 2024. As indicated in parentheses, this goal will render state accountability CCMR scores from 90 to 91 beginning with our 2021 graduates. As you consider the CCMR goal, I think it is important for you to note that it is a lagging indicator goal. The performance of our 2020 graduates will be reported in the 2021 State Accountability Report, 2021 graduates in 2022, and so forth. The campus targets you see, there it is. The campus targets you see on this slide are aligned with the district targets to support attainment of the district goal. The 51% baseline set for Brazosport High School is an increase of 25% since 2017. And the low targets for Brazos Success Academy reflect an increase from 6% in 2017 to the baseline goal. The state accountability scores for that campus provide you with some perspective into just how difficult it is for students in a dropout recovery environment to earn CCMR credit. District and campus efforts will focus on the three areas where we can have the greatest impact in supporting graduates to meet criteria: meeting the Texas Success Initiative and advanced placement criteria, earning dual credit, and earning an industry-based certification. With that being said, however, campuses will continue to provide the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, or ASVAB, exam to all students and allow military recruiters to have access to the campus. The teams that convene to develop these new student outcome goals work very hard to ensure that they reflect our district vision of setting the standard for educational excellence and our mission to graduate each student to be future ready. It is the administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the early childhood and college, career, and military readiness student outcome goals as presented. At this time, we are happy to answer any clarifying questions you have as you consider your vote on these goals.
Any questions from the board? Mr. Travis?
Back on the meeting goals, what would it take to get all of that school with them? And Steve would have also to do at least a thing. That's what he wants.
First of all, we have, I think, outstanding leaders that have some systems in place. We will begin the reading academies this year, but again, that won't reflect until the third grade. But I feel like it's going to take a lot of hard work, a lot of grit, and it's going to have to, we're going to have to implement the best practices that we know. Last year, we were 2 points above the state average, and I feel like if we continue with that trajectory of moving in the right direction, that we'll exceed what our state is. Now, we lower, usually, you know, y'all, those of you that know me, y'all like 100%, but let's go back. This is the STAR vocabulary here, not outstation data. And so we'll continue to use our screeners that we have in the lower grades to launch into the third grade. But it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of consistency on the part of instruction. I think our professional development is in place already, but it will be enhanced by the reading academies. That will also be shared, the information will be shared with the lower grades. We just won't have the training this year. So it's going to take a system to go in the right direction. And I think we have those systems in place. It's just going to take, you know, overcoming consistency in our instruction. I don't think that having been off since, I don't want to ever use excuses because I'm a no excuse person, but we know that coming in this year that we're going to be lagging behind because we missed some prerequisites. But I'm confident that we can spiral those prerequisites and identify our essential outcomes and really work toward those goals, to reaching those.
But going back to the slide page, But I guess my question is, I've got an 82 and an 82 and an 82 and an 82 and so what prevents us from putting that to a 90? And this is, I know it's a 4-year, but it's 2024, but.
Now remember, let's go back to 60% is an A.
I understand.
And to achieve that on a STAR test, which we know that our STAR tests are a grade level when we take them. I think that's
Okay,
an audacious goal to go from 60 to a 90. I'm not saying it can't be done.
No, I'm saying,
but
let's
it's
go to goal targets, and if you're going to use that, that's fine. Why can't we get on to a 60 and Blackstone to a 60 and River to a 60 and Austin to a 60? So that would equate to, is my question.
I think that we can. I just think it's going to be a long climb, but I'm confident that we can. But we set the goals to be attainable. As I said earlier, I feel like we'll exceed those goals. But an attainable goal is reflected in the numbers.
Well, I guess I see up here that we're in the 90s except for the schools, or we will be to the 90s in the far right. And the goal targets are still to get to 60. I understand the differences, but I guess over the past several years we still see I won't say lesser expectations, but it's why not expect the same for these 4 schools?
I think the expectation is always high. I just feel like we want to put a baseline and exceed it. So it's not to reflect that we don't have high expectations. It's to reflect that we want to attain it and exceed it. Do you remember years ago when we were talking about our screeners and we said we wanted to be 100% by 3rd grade? That's with our screeners and those STAR is a different measure.
But the screeners are not go underneath it.
Almost.
Again,
We're 90 and above in our
So,
screeners.
is there anything that can be done, added for these 4 schools to get to 60 with basically 90
Yeah,
the numbers of playing?
yeah. These are the board goals. These are the board student outcome goals that we adopted. So absolutely, Mr. Atkins, if it's the board's desire to do those 4 campuses up to 60, absolutely. We can do that. And no excuses. We ensure that our students provide the resources to learn at a level that no matter what campus you're at. So again, these are the board's goals to adopt, and if the board agrees to put those 4 campuses up to 60, we absolutely can do that.
I much rather like to have a 60 and get 58 than have a 54 and get a 56. So it's kind of like, and for those who may still be around in 2024, maybe they'll remember that, hey, the 60 was there, we didn't quite make it, but would it make us have a higher score than just hoping to get the 54 and expecting to do better? Why not have the 60 and put whatever we need in there? Is it more resources of some sort, different program that would aid?
Or more time in school and less interruption. I would say too, we thought about, again, as Mr. Massey said, we never want to use an excuse, but, interruption in learning and looking at participation as a grade last year instead of true student engagement and learning was something that we considered.
Okay. Another question on the CCMR. Again, why don't we have reports at that 90 level?
They're on their way.
I realize that, but
They are definitely on their way. Their improvement since 2017 has been tremendous.
I agree.
And those pieces are being put in place. it takes time. Some of the things where we looked at industry-based certification, for example, they're doing very well. But it's in the areas where the Texas Success Initiative, Mr. Atkins, the areas where you have the SAT, ACT, and you're meeting those criteria, or you're looking at the AP examinations. Those are areas where they have purposely targeted as they work through this plan that they're going to be working heavily on and providing support to students. We believe they will exceed that, but they also wanted to make sure that this target that they set reflects the progress they've made in their dual credit, the progress they've made in earning their industry-based certifications. So to answer that, they're on the right track. Can they get to 60? Yeah, I think they can. But I think also they wanted to set a goal, like Claire had already alluded to, that was not an easy attain. This is a difficult attain because it is very hard when you look at those college entrance exams and preparing those students to take those exams. It's going to take some work on their campus, and they're committed to that work. But they felt that the 57, and they were on the committee, they felt that it was a reasonable expectation that would stretch them far. But I know that in their hearts, they would love to be at that 60 or above.
Well, yes, I think I agree with that, because if you look at the freshman cohort that's coming up a little bit, they made tremendous strides. So, again, expectation. That's all.
But again, also, Mr. Atkins, I could just add, they had several students who qualified under the coherent sequence bonus. That's gone.
Oh, I understand.
And so, they're looking at their student body, their students, and what they're working toward and their goals. Again, they wanted to set a target that they felt would stretch them. But, again, if 60 is a target that needs to be set, and again, they are award goals. And so if that's the target y'all wish to be set for that, absolutely be set, and I guarantee you they'll give it everything they've got to reach it.
Well, I guess I should back up, because I'm not sure what the 57 equates to 87, but I'm not sure what, I guess what I want to equate to is the name.
Sure, absolutely.
That 60 might, 60
No, 60%,
a
60% is that threshold for 90.
Even in the CCR?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I was there, I just didn't.
You were right, yes.
All right, before we vote, do we have any audience? Yes, sir.
I think one of the things that we need to take in context here, obviously, for a lot of people, they're probably the first time they're seeing a lot of these numbers, and because of the way STAR and accountability and all these different things go about, some of these percentages may or may not look like what we would normally expect to, and that's the things that we're dealing with. And all these numbers, although we're now talking about 90s, which we weren't talking 6 years ago when we got on and started doing these things 5 years ago. So the things that, I don't want the things, just because these percentages are up here, those diminish what we've come from, because we have made massive strides. The things that Mr. Yost has done at Brazosport, the things we've done at Brazosport, the things we've done at a number of these campuses, to make the strides that we've made during this time period. And the fact that we're talking about 90s and meets now is something that we need to commend our staff and our team for what they've done. So I know from an outsider looking at these, and I was telling my wife on the way here that, look, unfortunately some of these things, when you're looking at them in the context of a first-time meeting person, they don't always look like we want them to look, but these are really good for where we've come and what we've done over the last 5 years to make the advances that we've had in many of these campuses. Some of these campuses have gone from, where we didn't want them to be to really successful campuses of day in and day out. So I don't want that to be lost in this discussion.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, these guys may be a little bit quicker, only looking 3.5 years.
Yeah, exactly. That's an important thing.
Still struggling.
Yeah, this AQF accountability is ridiculous. We made a 14-point stride last year during that time period, from an overall district standpoint, which is really unbelievable. So just a little context for those that are seeing new numbers for the first time. And there are a lot of different things that are going into, Ron Redmond has probably one of the more difficult jobs in the district, keeping track of all of these things and the moving targets. We don't get these standards set until after the test is taken. We don't know what it's going to look like until after the test is taken. We don't know what the scores are going to be until those test questions are removed that aren't fitting. We've had standards moved from 5th grade down to 3rd grade, and 4th grade down to 5th grade, or 3rd grade, and all these different things have continuously been a moving target for us in the district and across the state of Texas. But where we are now, and what we're trying to attain, the goals that we're setting now really are something to be committed and something that, again, a little context.
And these numbers are not going to go away with the graph, so
Right.
it'll only get worse. One thing I will commend is that very happy to hear the meets. You know, I've been talking about that for like 2 years now, 3 years. So the meets is much more. I mean, that really raises the bar. There's no question about that. But that's the bar we should be at. So again, not too belittle this only because it is great strides, but you know, it's kind of like
Setting a good goal.
you got there's still working, still they don't expect more people, more budget. That's what we need.
It's not going to get easier. Good.
I'm good.
All right, moving on. Do we have any public comment before we take our vote?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So, just a couple of questions to piggyback on Mr. Atkins and Mr. Shorter. Setting these specific goals is purely internal. There's nothing that happens if you don't attain them for these specific goals.
Well, that's not exactly right. There are actions that we will have to take as a district if we do not meet our annual targets. The state will hold us accountable to those annual targets, and there will be specific actions that we have to take and a plan that we have to submit as to why we did not meet those targets.
So by setting targets that the district feels are, reasonably attainable for each individual campus, helps prevent us from having to do those things should we not attain them. Correct? Is it just changes in, pardon my vernacular if I'm wrong, is it changes in curriculum? Is it changes in funding? Is it changes in what kind of changes would have to be undertaken? Just as an example, I'm not asking for a laundry list.
Professional development primarily.
Okay. And then, I think that was my main question is what happens if you don't and why? Because I'm with Mr. Atkins on the thought of, you shoot for the moon, you land amongst the stars, right? So let's set it, sometimes be very audacious goals, but yeah, if there's penalties for nothing, that's what, so thank you.
Any other comments? Questions? All right, we have a motion before us from the administration. Do I have a motion to approve?
I would like to make a motion to change the goal as discussed to 60% for the school discipline treatment and group admission, which is, well, that's no good at all. So that's a really good question.
So you're making a motion to amend the schools that were below 60% to raise them to 60%.
That's my motion.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. It's been moved by Mr. Atkins to amend the original recommendation to increase those schools up to 60%, and seconded by Mr. Ryan Hart. Is there any further discussion before we vote, since it has an amendment? All right, hearing none, then
I'm sorry, is that just an early childhood goal? I wasn't clear on the motion.
No, it's our early childhood literacy and CCM.
And CC Mark, yes, that's what I wrote down. Thank you.
We'll get
All right, all those in favor to approve the amended motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed by nay. All right, that carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one item, I believe, one item that was pulled from the consent agenda at this time.
Yeah, Deputy, basically, I just wanted a very brief, quick update on our financial situation in light of the circumstances that we're in, the new normal, whatever that is. We're looking very good. I guess our financial reports through May, through May. General fund looks good, of course, we haven't taken recapture yet, so it's not as good as it looks, but it's still pretty good.
I can definitely.
And, basically just an update for the rest of this year. And Rebecca and I talked briefly earlier, the outlook for next year is probably the most concerning. But I think it would be good to get just a very good look.
Yeah, absolutely. The financials for the general fund that were presented in the board packet for approval are through May 30th, but they show a year-end surplus of about $42 million. And that is definitely a little misleading. And so, like Mr. Atkins says, we do have a one-time recapture payment, which is, we're considered a property wealthy district, and we receive property tax collections in excess of our Tier 1 state funding. And so we will send the state about $28 million this year, and that is a one-time payment that we make in August. And so from that $42 million that were presented tonight, you deduct $27 million. We still have payroll expenses through the rest of this year, which our fiscal year is August 31st, of about $15 million. And then we have other accounts payable invoices of about $1 million a month. And so I do anticipate that all things considered, we will end the 19-20 fiscal year with about a $4 million deficit. At the beginning of the year, the board adopted a budget of pretty much a break-even budget of $179,000. And so it is a little bit of a swing, and we aren't in the financial position that is presented in the report tonight. And so I'm happy to provide that clarity and answer any follow-up questions as it relates to the current year. As we talk about 2021 and years beyond, there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of uncertainty as we move forward. I presented an update on the budget development for next year at the June meeting, and we have a budget workshop scheduled for August 3rd where I'll provide more information. But right now, as presented in June, we had a break-even budget for 2021. It's about a $3 million deficit, but we do budget about $3.4 million in contingencies. And so if those contingencies weren't used, we would have a break-even budget. That being said, we're in a great financial position. We have about a $58 million fund balance. And so as we move through the next legislative session, there are lots of unknowns. Obviously, this pandemic has caused some strain on the state's budget. And we received some information last week from the comptroller's office that the state's basically anticipating this biennium about an $11 billion deficit. So revenue shortfall at the state level of about $11 billion. They've offset that with reducing spending for public education because they have replaced the state share with the federal ESSER money that we're set to receive. And so they are balancing, but they are anticipating about a $5 billion shortfall for this biennium. And so obviously they're going to be looking to make cuts, and the sustainability of House Bill 3 and the additional funding that was approved from the 86th legislative session is obviously on my radar. It's something we will continue to track and report and update and consider as we budget for this year and the future years. Any other questions?
That's good, thank you. Appreciate it.
It's not full. Do we have any comments from the board? Do we have any comments from the audience regarding this item? All right, if not, then do I have a motion to approve the remaining consent agenda item?
I'll make that motion.
All right, it's been moved by Jerry. Do I have a second? Mr. Reinhardt. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay. All right, that carries forward. Thank you. Next item we have on our agenda are our reports. Report A is ad valorem tax collections. Favorite now?
Favorite collection order. Good evening, good to see everybody. Thank you for a couple of minutes of your time. I don't mind, I'll go maskless so you can hear me a little better. So as things go, you can't always control what's going to happen in your life. 2020 is a great example of that. When January started, my law firm started to celebrate its 50th anniversary. Hence the 50th anniversary logo. Little did we know that we'd be celebrating it during this pandemic, but we tried to make the best of it. And so we move along in our collection effort. And let me just preface what you're going to see by telling you that, as you would imagine, when March hit and everything started to shut down, our efforts to collect taxes, delinquent taxes, shut down to a crawl. It was certainly not appropriate for us to be making aggressive calls, lawsuits, property for sale, and people were going through it at a very uncertain time. And so we continued, as we did before the pandemic, we do during the pandemic and after, continue to work with any taxpayer that owes money that needs some time to give them the best opportunity they can to get their taxes paid. That's always the goal. We have now gotten to the point that we're able to start back up at our collection effort. Friday, we dropped 12,000 notices countywide on people that owe delinquent taxes for the 2019 year. It was turned over to us in July. And as you can imagine, our phones started blowing up today with people that want to know how they can resolve their situation. For the district, we prepared a snapshot of your delinquent roll as of a couple of weeks ago. And at that time, we had $2.14 million of outstanding taxes through the 2019 year. A couple of items I'll point out for you, the largest being what we label action pending, which really is a lot of new 2019 taxes that we just got to file. And from a review of your roll standpoint, that's really this time of the year where you're looking to be. That the bulk of what's owed are new accounts. We're turning over each year a lot of accounts, a lot of money that we're collecting, and then every July we start back over again. This is my 37th delinquent tax collection cycle. So this is certainly the most interesting with the COVID-19. The other thing I'll point out for you is our deferrals, and I like to point this out when I'm at meetings, the blue portion of the pie chart. If you're over 65 and it's your homestead and you owe delinquent taxes, you have the absolute right to defer the payment of those taxes. It's a simple form you get from the appraisal district. You provide them your driver's license so that you prove your date of birth. You provide the proof of the ownership of your property, and you can defer the payment of your taxes so long as you're living and claiming that property as your homestead. That doesn't mean you can't pay it, but you can get the protection of the deferral so you don't hear from somebody like me about why you haven't paid your taxes. So just today I had that conversation with the taxpayer, and I always inquire about their age. I also always inquire to make sure people are getting their homestead exemptions. You would think that everybody does, but really there are a lot of people that don't realize that if you own your home, you're entitled to get that exemption, and it helps lower your taxes, which is what everybody's looking for. So this just gives you a snapshot of what the delinquent roll looks like. It impacts how we do our collections for the district. The second chart just gives you an idea by dollar range of the accounts that we're working on. You can see, for example, in the red column, we've got between $2,500 and $5,000 accounts. We've got $344,000 of accounts to work on. This just helps us when we're getting ready to make our outbound call. Third pie chart breaks it down by year, and sort of going with the concept that a lot of the accounts in the action pending is new. You can also see for 2019, 53% of the money overall in the district is just for the new year. We started working on it earlier this month. So it's certainly more collectible. The faster you get on it, the easier it is to collect. The longer you wait, obviously, the harder it is to ultimately collect, and you do know one in favor. So we try to get working with these accounts right away. Then finally, I provided you with our graph showing historical collections for each year of the collection cycle. And I'll move forward and I'll go back to any one of these that you may have a question on, but let me use the year that just completed. So for last July, we received a little under $1 million to collect for you. And in the first 12 months, we collected almost 68% of that. Compared to the year before, where we had a little over $1 million to collect, and we collected 70%. Part of, I would say, the reason for this slight reduction is COVID-19, because we basically were put on standstill for 4 months. So what does 2019 look like, the year that I've been mentioning and that we just started on? Again, just looking at in October of 19, when you had the first shot of what your tax roll was going to look like, there was roughly $154 million of taxes levied. And I give you that in context because there's always additions and corrections going on to the roll during the year. But in order to give you a sense of where you were, I picked the number that began back in October. And you can see, and this is historically true for the district, over 99% of the money that you levied on was collected. And so 0.74% was turned over to us. So when I tell you all, and I've said in the past, that you don't have a delinquent tax problem, I think this is a great illustration of that. A couple other things to wrap up. We do tax sales. We are doing them while we had stopped for a few months. We're back on with that. If you're interested in property that is available in the district and throughout the county, you can go to our website, pbfcm.com, and click on tax sales. You can sign up to a free email. And every Friday morning at 4 a.m., you will get a blast from us telling you the properties that are available for sale. We may be in COVID, but the property that goes up for sale, we are selling. At our last sale in June, we had about 20 different properties countywide, and 18 of them sold at the sale. Some for more than the opening bid of taxes that were owed. So there is still great interest in property in Brazosport County. We had a docket this past Friday. We had 50 cases on. We took judgments on, and again, anybody who's looking for a payment, we're working with them and giving them the time that they need. So that's a quick update on our delinquent tax effort on behalf of the district. We appreciate the opportunity to work with you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, on the 2014 election, their percentages are higher. Is that just a sign of the time? I mean, every year is higher than 15, 16, 17.
As a year goes through, so for example, we've now completed 5 cycles of the 2014 year, and so we've resolved almost 93% of that original amount.
My question is, in year 3, you got a 90% collection, but as you go to year 3, a couple years down, it's not quite as high. Is there?
Sometimes it's because of the type of accounts that are on the roll that may become uncollectible. But I do, I see what you're talking about. You can see in year 2, we just finished, we're at 83%, which is similar to year 2 for the 16 year, similar to year 3. But it gets harder.
Yeah.
But
you've been 37 years. I haven't done that quickly, but
we've done a lot together.
Any other questions? Audience? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.
Next item that we have under reports is report B, the return to school plan 2020-2021.
Mr. Howard, the health and safety of our students and staff, families, and community is our top priority, and we continue to work tirelessly to ensure our students and staff are as safe as possible. Every decision made is based on the latest guidance and direction from local, state, and federal authorities on operational considerations. We understand the detrimental effects for students and parents when students are not able to attend school. We also understand some parents don't feel comfortable sending their students to school at this time. The good news is we have options for both. We have worked very hard putting a plan in place to safely serve students at school while providing an option for those who wish to remain at home. One thing we've all learned in dealing with this pandemic is things change quickly. But with the dedication of our talented team, we continue to adapt to ensure our students and staff will be as safe as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Massey. We'll start tonight with the major guidelines for in-person at-school processes. You may wish to refer to the Be Ready 2020 document that's available on our website for a full list of district actions for the school start 2020. I provided a link in this slideshow for board members if you want to use that for a quick reference. The first item area is student health protocols, which outlines the daily screening procedures and obligations of parents and students to self-screen each day before boarding school transportation or arriving at school. Training for staff has already begun and students will be trained the first day of school. Social distancing will be implemented as much as feasibly possible during the school day. So what does that mean? It means that based on the number of individuals in the building, we will separate desks, train proper social distancing, install plexiglass dividers, stagger lunches, stagger dismissals, adjust hallway traffic, decrease gathering of students in a single area, and adjust practices and procedures as needed to create the best possible level of social distancing based on the situation we're given on any given day. Currently, we are under the governor's orders to wear masks for anyone 10 years or older. The Center for Disease Control reviewed the latest science and affirms that face cloth coverings are a critical tool in the fight against COVID-19. To begin the school year, the ISD will require the following three areas. All students and staff are required to use a non-medical grade mask covering the nose and mouth as much as reasonably possible. Students utilizing bus transportation will be required to wear masks while riding on the bus. Any campus visitor during the instructional day will be required to wear a face covering for building access. The Texas Education Agency outlines the response for individuals confirmed or suspected with COVID-19. An individual must stay home throughout the infection period, and three areas, all three, that must be met before an individual can return are at least 3 days have passed since recovery, the individual has improvement in symptoms, and at least 10 days have passed since symptoms first appeared. Any individual that wants to return outside of these guidelines must either obtain a medical professional's note clearing the individual for return based on an alternative diagnosis or receive two separate confirmations at least 24 hours apart. Furthermore, TEA has continued guidance of if an individual who has been in a school is lab confirmed to have COVID, the school must notify its local health department in accordance with all applicable federal, state, and local laws and regulations. Schools must close off areas that are heavily used by the individual with a lab confirmed case until non-porous surfaces in those areas can be disinfected, unless more than 3 days has already passed since that person was on campus. Consistent with the school notification requirements for other communicable diseases, consistent with legal confidentiality requirements, schools must notify all teachers, staff, and families of all students in a school if a lab confirmed case of COVID-19 exists. Guidance and counseling services and social emotional needs will be facilitated by campus school counselors and our licensed professional counselors. Unlike situations that we've experienced in the past where some students may be impacted and not others, the pandemic has resulted in all of our students experiencing various levels of trauma. As a result, teachers and other staff members will be trained to recognize the impacts of social isolation and the signs and symptoms of trauma. Our counselors will continue to offer individual and small group supports, as well as classroom guidance to all of our students. They are also prepared to virtually meet the academic, social, and emotional needs of those students who will be working remotely. With the use of Google Classroom, counselors will be able to share their guidance lessons with students who are utilizing remote learning. Because of the various needs of of our students and families and what they're experiencing, our district counselors, licensed professional counselors, and our wraparound service partners will be working together to identify needs and provide support and resources to families. Whether it be needing mental health support, financial assistance, or assistance with food insecurities, our wraparound team is familiar with the local resources in our community. And our partnerships with the Greater Gulf Coast Community Network will make referrals seamless, which will get our students the specific needs met timely. Shifting gears a little bit to transportation. As a response to COVID, Brazosport ISD encourages all families with the ability to do so to transport children to and from school. Bus transportation will be offered. However, the standard number of transported students compromises the ability to social distance. Because social distancing is limited on buses, students utilizing bus transportation will be required to wear face coverings while on the bus. We'll organize routes to maintain one student per seat if feasible. Again, the availability of drivers and the number of riders will dictate our ability to social distance, but all eligible riders will be transported to campus. Athletics and extracurricular activities will be conducted in alignment with the Texas Education Agency and the University Interscholastic League UIL guidelines. Students that are 100% at-home virtual learners will be allowed to participate in after-school extracurricular activities. Non-UIL activities will follow the same COVID-19 related guidelines as the UIL activities. Hand washing and hand sanitization stations will be available and face covering guidelines will apply. I'm now going to turn it over to Mr. Monty Berger, Chief Technology and Operations Officer, who will present information on mitigation and sanitization protocols.
Thank you, Jay. So how are we going to get rid of all these COVID germs? Health, hygiene, and mitigation practices. Brazosport ISD will provide hand sanitizer stations at the main entrances of each campus. Hand sanitizer will be placed in all classrooms. Hand sanitizer stations will be placed at the entrances of large gathering areas such as cafeterias, gyms, and libraries. Signage for proper hygiene practices will be posted throughout the buildings, in the restrooms, and at the entrances. Minimum door touching procedures will be implemented where possible. Campus cleaning plan. Campuses will be cleaned/sanitized throughout the instructional day with an enhanced cleaning schedule. In addition, each campus will be thoroughly disinfected via misting or fogging each evening. Custodial staffing will be realigned to allow for ongoing cleaning of touch surfaces throughout the instructional day. Classrooms will be equipped for cleaning between changing of classes with effective and appropriate cleaning product. Cleaning products will all be properly stored when not in use. I'll now turn it over to our Chief Human Resources Officer, Christy Kirchner.
Thank you, Mr. Berger. As a district, we have established the following employee health protocols. All BIC employees will be required to complete a self-screening daily. All employees shall know, understand, and practice methods to protect themselves and others from COVID-19 in the workplace. All employees must practice appropriate cleaning and disinfection, hand hygiene, and respiratory etiquette. All employees shall regularly wash their hands throughout their daily activities. All employees shall maintain 6 feet distance from others. If this is not possible, a face covering must be used. All employees shall use non-medical grade face masks covering the nose and mouth while indoor common spaces and when reasonable. All employees will be required to report health and/or exposure concerns to human resources for review and leave determination. The Be Ready 2020 Employee Resources Guide will be available later this week and shared with all BISD employees. Now I'll turn the presentation over to Mr. John Martell, Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Academics.
Good evening. For campus arrival, multiple entry points will be established. Entrance doors will be opened and monitored to reduce possible touching, and increased sanitization of those areas will occur. Students will report straight to the classrooms whenever possible. In all areas of the building, that would be the gym, the cafeteria, larger classrooms, and common areas, will be utilized to limit the size of student groupings. For dismissal procedures, multiple exit points will be established. Exit doors will be opened and monitored to reduce the touching where possible. Campuses will implement staggered release procedures. We have an elementary dismissal plan based on feeder patterns that allow siblings to be released at the same time and allow efficiency for our buses. And students will be released straight from their classrooms whenever possible. For classroom transitioning, the transitioning of students will be limited during the school day. Students in grades pre-K through 4 will have a designated homeroom teacher. Whenever possible, teachers will rotate into the classrooms rather than students to limit student transitioning. For our campus visitors, to limit exposure, informal campus visits will be restricted. That would be including during meal times. Campus visitors will be restricted to those essential for school operations. Essential meetings will be done by appointment or through a virtual format. In the event an individual visits a campus, they must pass a screener with temperature monitoring to access any school campus. And to ensure the safety of our students and staff, no outside food deliveries will be accepted. Until further notice, the use of field trips to enhance the educational experience will be postponed, and there will be no large student assemblies. And now Mr. Brian Cole, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum, will talk to us about our instructional plans.
Now we will turn to the instructional choices being provided to our families. As has been mentioned, much of this remains quite flexible as we respond to new guidance from the Texas Education Agency and the needs of our community. Let's start by reviewing the at-school instructional choice. Students in Brazosport ISD will have the opportunity to attend schools and receive instruction via face-to-face format for the 2020-2021 school year. This scenario will include a blended instructional platform that involves at-school, in-person instruction, as well as the use of Google Classroom. This will ensure that students are familiar with the virtual platform in the event that we have to quickly switch to an all-virtual setting. Students in grades pre-K through 4 will have a designated homeroom teacher, while students in 5th grade through 8th grade of high school will have a unique campus schedule, as is the case in a normal school year. Whether choosing at-home instruction or at-school instruction, our students who need specialized support services will be appropriately provided those as determined by their individualized plan. Virtual instruction will include scheduled, two-way, live, real-time instruction between teachers and students, while students are not on campus in most cases. Students are expected to engage in learning activities and assignments outside of the live instructional time with their teachers. At the elementary level, students are expected to be actively engaged in learning for a minimum of 3 to 4 hours daily. At the secondary level, students are expected to be engaged in learning for a minimum of 6 to 7 hours daily. Students must meet these requirements to be counted present on a daily basis. Students are required to attend at least 90% of their classes to receive credit and be promoted. Virtual attendance will be counted in the same manner as on-campus attendance and satisfying this requirement. As part of our communication about virtual instruction at home, we ask that students have previously shown success while learning virtually and continue to show success academically to remain virtual. We know that each family situation is different and have given principals the ability to work with families to make appropriate decisions. In addition, we have specified that a reliable internet connection, along with space conducive to learning, are necessary for a successful learning experience at home. We do know that many of our families will want to make a change in their selected learning environments. The selection of a learning environment is for a minimum of a 1 9-week grading period. Changing of a learning environment will not occur in the middle of the grading period. Exceptions that are in the best interest of students may be approved by the campus principal subject to availability. As it relates to grading, grades received in a virtual format will follow the same grading guidelines as face-to-face instruction for the 2020-2021 school year. This report is, board action is not required on this report. At this time, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Do we have any questions from the board? Do you have any questions from the, all right, first, we did have a couple sign up. We'll take them first. Ms. Corin Camarada. Is that correct?
Close.
Pretty close.
Pretty close. Good evening. Thank you for having me here. I'm going to try to be a little bit less nervous than I was last time. Please bear with me. Before I ask my questions, I would like to say that you all understand me first of all. All right, good. I've heard from several folks who were unable to reach their board member this weekend. Now, after the criticism that we got from the facts last time, I would like to ask how it is that we are supposed to participate in this process when we can't even get a board member to respond to us.
Anything you specific?
I didn't want to call any particular board member out by name. If you ask me to do that, I will.
And I responded to whatever.
You did, absolutely. And I appreciate you are my board member, and I appreciate that. And you were not the name that I heard.
So how do you try to do that?
I can just try to email their board member through the listed email address. And absolutely.
Did you email me?
I'm sorry.
Did you email me?
No, I did not.
You will receive it. You will receive a response from me.
And like I said, I emailed Mr. Schwartz. He is my representative, and I appreciate that he's always been available to speak to me. But I know that there are several folks who have not had that same level of interaction.
I will tell you, we have a board member, Ms. Betty Sayers, that was out last week with back surgery. That's why she's not here. So if it was her, she was in the hospital. But people are always welcome to email me anytime or call my office and just ask. Feature on our website. We work diligently at all hours of the night to get those questions answered as soon as possible. So please email multiple persons or email me myself, and I'll make sure you get an answer too.
Sure. I'm still a little salty about that editorial. I just want to make sure that folks understand we are actively trying to participate in this process. And it's very hard to do that. So, my questions. Now, the first one, we had those, the items at the beginning of this slide referencing the guidelines for when teachers test positive. And maybe I'm missing something. You can explain this to me. But that doesn't sound like a really fleshed out plan to me. So what is going to happen specifically? Like if my kid's teacher tests positive, what is it? Does that mean all the kids in that class have to quarantine? What if it's someone that lives in the teacher's house that tests positive? Do they then have to quarantine? What is the fleshed out plan for that?
I can begin to address part of that question for you. If a teacher is positive, then we will have appropriate notifications for those individuals who would have had contact with her, who in a sense was not social distancing and or not wearing a mask. If a teacher's family member who tests positive, there would not be any quarantine in that situation or isolation that would expand beyond that teacher in general, because that individual would not be showing symptoms at the time.
Okay. What about substitutes? What if a substitute tests positive and they've been in 3 different schools in the past week? How does that work?
Right. So in the event a substitute tests positive, we will have the same notifications go out to those campuses, confirming that with those individuals who would have been exposed to her, or him, sorry, where they were not social distancing and PPE was not in place.
So even if the teachers so if the teacher is wearing a mask in her class, it's not going to be any notification. Is that what I'm hearing?
If proper PPE is worn by both parties, which you can understand is going to be very hard to track that, especially when we're dealing with students, we will have notifications going out. We have form letters that Mr. Whitehead's department and my department and Human Resources are currently working on to notify families as well as employees of those potential exposures.
Okay. So my second question is about Meet the Teacher. My son is going to be starting at a new school, and he is understandably a little bit nervous about walking into a new school where he doesn't know anyone. And if the procedure is to go directly to the classroom and he doesn't have any idea what it is. And we have a nice big box already with the request of school supplies that, he's little, I'm not sure he's going to be able to carry it. His inhaler, I give to the nurse. I assume, there's paperwork like we have to allow at his old school. How is that going to work if there is no actual Meet the Teacher? And when I sent this to the staff, I said, they're all being virtual Meet the Teacher. So how is that going to work for kids that are going into a brand new environment? Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
I think I responded to one of your just asked, and it inspired me to think about, you as a mom, what would that look like? And it felt really bad. So I asked my team of experts, I'm my elementary principal, because I'm elementary. And so right now, we have not, I'm going to use your words, fleshed out some procedures, but we're looking at maybe having a time where we can schedule appointments, gather in a gym, social distance, but you get to stand beside your spouse or your significant other, and maybe take small groups on a tour. And especially if we have two schools, Brandon Elementary and Roberts Elementary, everyone in the community is dying to get in to see their new schools. And just like last year, we had ribbon cutting and cake. That can't be this year. So we're thinking and brainstorming of alternatives of how we can do something beyond a virtual tour, especially for our brand new students, and especially for our kindergarten and our pre-K, because they're going to be scared. So thank you for your inspiration, and it got us thinking about that is something that we're feeling worse than you are about this, but at the same time, our first priority is safety.
Sure.
Now with that, we're thinking about, we're going to set the parameters. We can't bring the whole family in. We would limit it to maybe, mother, father, or mother, and another, and the child, and then they would have to stay together at social distance. We do not have that fleshed out yet, but we are working on it as a team. I see all the my administrators. We're trying everything we can to ensure that our families feel comfortable coming in the city, while protecting, and making sure that everyone wears a mask, even our little ones when we walk in with our parents.
Absolutely.
So thank you for the inspiration, and we'll continue to keep you posted, and we'll see what happens.
I appreciate that.
I would also assume, if there may be addressed, but I would assume first day of school, we're going to have lots of people at the front, welcoming students, teachers inviting them to the classrooms, escorting them. No child's going to be left at the front and say good luck. And, there's going to be someone at the front, I promise you, there to assist your child, work with them, getting them to the proper location. That's every first day of school, not just this year, but that's every first day of school. We always have lots of extra help in front. We always have lots of extra teachers going to new students, and this obviously will be a little different, how people are moving, but we'll have lots of help getting people to the right hallway into the right location.
Okay. So my next question, as far as the plans for remote learning, and I've seen the slide of sort of the expectations for students. Students need to do this, and they need to do this, and they need to do 4 hours for the littles. But what I haven't seen his behavior is just going to go right downhill. That much screen time. So what is it like? It's very hard for me to make a decision about, does he go back to school and does he do online without knowing what that day is going to look like?
I'm going to try to address some of your questions that you have there. We're working with the principals to establish that, but we do have a virtual handbook that we're going to be putting out, and it basically sets the grade level expectations as well as what a schedule will look like within a day. We listed as 3 to 4 hours that they would be doing activities. It's going to be teacher-led activities, independent work, a lot of teacher monitoring, obviously group activity, and we have it all kind of scheduled out, again, depending on the particular grade level. Again, going for 3 to 4 hours, that's our goal, but it won't always be in front of a computer. It could be a small group setting, it could be independent. We also realize that some of our kids may have difficulty, so we have other staff members that will be involved in doing some interventions to keep them up to speed and up to the progress that they need. I can kind of forward you if somebody, we'll touch base after this, what a schedule will look like. Because we have them pretty much developed, but we also have to work with the grouping who our virtual teacher is, and grouping with students that individual is working with, make sure everything works. But again, it's going to be group activity, teacher-led activity, individual activities, and they're going to incorporate our specials, which is music and PE. A little different than a traditional day, but it's going to touch on all the the standards that we would do in a normal classroom in a little different environment.
And when can we see that?
Well, that should be coming out pretty quick. We have a meeting tomorrow with all the principals to go through that particular document to make sure that we have that document the way we want it and we get the release report there.
Right, because if we're being asked to make a decision by August 5th, that we have to decide, and it's hard to do that without all the information.
Well, I agree with you, and I do have to, this is a difficult time and very challenging for all of us. So your participation in that is special, coming to the meeting, I appreciate that. And we've been working with our teachers remotely all summer to go through what it should look like for a first grader, second grader, or third grader, and we need all their input to make this something that is rich, that is quality, and that will benefit your child. So we're trying to get through all those measures and take stuff.
Would you anticipate a student logging in multiple different times during a day?
Yes.
At all grade levels?
Well, I'm not going to speak for the secondary because that'll be set up a little bit differently. But for the elementary, there are going to be different login times. Because of their developmental ages, we have to make sure that we don't put them on a computer too long. There's a burnout, and there's going to be different activities to make sure that they can do things at home, either with their parents or individually. And then the teacher will come back on, work with them, monitor to see where they're at, use the activities, see if they're participating in the learning. And again, in the event that they aren't, then we're going to have other staff or that staff member making sure they get the interventions needed so they stay with their grade level.
I want to stay with my last question. If an individual assignment is assigned to a student at elementary level, since you're talking about elementary, will that be due in an hour or 2 hours a week? You give 2 days? So they can work home at night, different things will be different.
The way we currently have it up is there would be so many assignments within a week and 4 activities, and those assignments would be due, and then that way the teacher could monitor those activities and make sure that the child isn't falling throughout the week. They'll have set days of when something is due, what the activity is. The teacher will lead that discussion, lead the guidance into that, and then the child will be turning in the activity, and the teacher will follow up to make sure they understood the lesson.
I want to speak as a voice of experience because this summer we are required by law to have a pre-K and kindergarten summer school. And I thought, oh my goodness, how do you keep a 4-year-old engaged on a computer? Well, here's a word that I like to use. Our outstanding bilingual teachers used what I call, it's an educational term, they chunked the information. So they all came on at the same time with their separate classes, and they all did their morning exercise together, and it was beautiful. I had the opportunity to go in virtually and visit the classrooms. And one of the things that made it beautiful is the teacher would, do a direct teach. Then the students would have to go offline and then do their job in their homes or whatever. And then at the timer, they came back online at a specific time. And what was so beautiful is the students interacted with each other and they got to talk to one another. Although it is teacher directed, the students get to talk with one another as well. We served 140 pre-K and kindergarten. We're talking 4 and 5-year-olds, and it was outstanding learning, and we got great results out of it. I've got Maria Espinosa and Dr. Mott, Karen Mott. I know y'all were 2 campuses and had a lot of teachers involved, and those teachers set the standard for virtual excellence. And if they can do it for 4-year-olds, which I witnessed with my own eyes, and chunked the information and came back and forth throughout the day, had their music, sang. I got to see kids singing, and also, one of the pivotal parts about it being successful is the parent or guardian, because it's going to take, for a 4-year-old, a parent guardian to be engaging as well, to ensure that their children are logged on at the appropriate times and set the timers for when they come back. So it's going to take a partnership when you choose at home. A partnership between the teacher and a partnership between the student. If the student had to be absent, that was an email exchange, and then they got to do it. We had 2 students that went to Mexico that were still working virtually in the backseat of a car because they wanted to interact not only with their teacher, but with their classmates. So there's a book, Everything I Always Wanted to Learn, I Learned in Kindergarten. It exemplified this summer. So it gave me faith and hope, because I was very cynical in the beginning, but to see the kids and their reaction virtually, it was their norm by the end of it. Very successful, and all of our kids gained strides. I was very proud of that. And I wanted to share that with you, to offer you hope that it won't be a disaster, because we have trained professionals that really are taking off and knowing what they're doing virtually.
Sure, and this is not, I don't think it's the teachers that would make it a disaster. Absolutely not. There's no blind kids. And I know that a lot of screen time is just super bad.
You've got to chop that information and give them frequent breaks, even the recess and the lunch, to come back, because that's their developmental.
Right, and I appreciate you sharing that here, because I did use the Just Ask after we held earlier in the week. And what I got, we're working on that, and that's great. But I think for a lot of us, that information sharing, where, I got my answer through Just Ask, that's just me that gets that information. So I appreciate you sharing that with everyone that's doing, so that all of us can make the decision with that information. So my last question then, so if we do decide to go back to the classroom, which now is going to be an 8-hour day, if my kid does not do homework, is he going to be penalized? Because if you have my kid for 8 hours a day and you don't get home until, after 4:30 in the afternoon, I'm sorry, not having a kid do homework. What is that going to look like for him?
I don't know. Homework.
Yeah.
I have been on both secondary and elementary. I feel like homework is a practice to do better. So some homework is going to require, for example, a lot of reading, which your child would do. But I would think, given the circumstances, we're not going to give tons of homework. It's going to be homework that might, over a period of time, be due, so that you would have a syllabus of when that homework is going to be due. But if it's a short assignment, it could be due the next day. So I think the teachers would have to gauge the quality of the work, or the longevity of the project, etc., and present a syllabus, and then we would take it from there. But I'm is you're assigning something, and it could be for a grade, or it could be for not a grade. It could be an assignment to check to see if they're understanding before we go on to the next concept. But I think we as educators have to make it clear this is going to be a grade. A lot of the things we take grades on are things that we can actually see them do traditionally in a class. So, for example, if we're going to give homework virtually, it might be something that we assess them on the next day to see how well they did after the practice.
Sure, but what I'm talking about is if in school and they are face-to-face in the classroom 8 hours a day.
Your child won't be penalized for not doing homework. They will not be penalized.
Okay, thank you. Because that's a lot.
We all made a commitment, I know on the elementary level, that we're not going to give homework, except for read 20 minutes every night, which is a community one, right, community? Read 20 minutes every night. That's what we agreed to.
Just to clarify for everyone also, there could be assignments that are done at home or take multiple days to do that will be turned into a grade.
That way they get extra time to complete.
I understand, but there will be just because I don't know what the word homework means for everybody, it may be different for someone and everybody here. In most cases, homework to me means practice, right? It's something that a teacher wants them to do in order to, like Alex is a good example, right? It's something to enhance learning or to reinforce what was learned that day. But there are going to be assignments, I would assume, both virtually and non-virtually, and face-to-face, that there will be grading requirements for in order for that student to receive a grade or not grade in that class.
And just like face-to-face, if they didn't finish school,
Correct.
they would have that opportunity at home to finish.
Just want to be careful that we don't say all homework is still punishable when you don't have to do anything. That's not, I don't think that's what you're saying, Danny, but.
No, I'm saying her kids, which I know, your kids are young, very young, they're 8, so your child will not be punished for not doing homework in your situation if they're at the job.
And we've communicated multiple times over the last 2 months that the expectation for elementary age students for sure.
I was a senior, she may, it's in a different situation.
But I think having a kid for 8 hours, that's something wrong.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, but when he gets home at night, I have some time to be a kid. And I'm not doing my schoolwork.
Absolutely. Your 8-year-old will not be punished for not doing homework.
Great. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Could another person sign up? I want to make sure I get this correct. I think it's Dave White. Is that correct? We're close, or I'm
I got a quick question. So, everybody knows the same words here. You don't have the traditional 9 to 5 or whatever it is. So, with the virtual stuff, the teaching will be live, or can the kids get on when mom get home or dad get home? Because that's not suitable for everybody. Okay, so when we had 5 people get COVID, we closed schools down. Now we got hundreds of people a day getting COVID, and we opened the schools up. So I'm not understanding that. So I'm choosing to keep my kids at home, but I want to quality education. I'm working, and then my wife will work, so we're not home at the same time every day. So can we like record the teachers and then we come home and kids can get on and do the assignments? That's pretty much the question I have to
So the current model that we're working under for virtual instruction does provide a scheduled live two-way interaction with the teacher and the students, so that the teachers and students can participate together, provide that live feedback as if they were in school. Now, at the elementary level, that's for about the 3 to 4 hours, and with breaks and schedules as has been shared. At the secondary level, that's a little
more as if they were following a schedule during the school day. There are different classes and courses being offered at different times, so those students will be able to log in and participate with the teacher. They'll have different activities and direct instruction from the teacher, and then be able to work on those assignments during that period of time. So as of right now, they are scheduled with live two-way instruction. One of the key feedback pieces that we received from both parents and students regarding the remote instruction that we provided in the spring was that there was an extreme need for additional feedback so that we can move learning forward for students. And that was one of the key components that in a more modular system was missing, was that feedback. So the the virtual instruction we're providing now is designed to be that live interaction with teachers and students.
I understand, the live, but like I'm paid for the live. I can go back and watch that, right? And get the same principle as me watching it actually doing it.
Yes, so one of the key, and I'll give you all a few more details, one of the key things that we have to work with the Texas Education Agency is they have certain requirements. They use two different terms, and these are more funding related terms than they are instructional terms. They use the term synchronous, which we would equate to live. For TEA, that's 4 hours or more at the secondary level. And then they use the term asynchronous, which means that those assignments can be, done at different times of the day. The key requirement currently, based on our understanding of asynchronous instruction, is that, for instance, March 1st of 2021 is a school day. For each and every course that our school district offers, we should be able to tell you exactly what activity those students would be doing on March 1st of 2021. So our teachers typically design their assignments following the scope and sequence to be able to provide instruction for their students as we move through the school year. They remain flexible to meet the needs of their students while also working towards that scope and sequence. So for me to be able to stand before you and tell you with each and every one of the over 300 courses that we offer at the secondary level, what would be happening on March 1st of 2021, I'm not able to do right now, which is a current requirement of the Texas Education Agency based on our current understanding. So our hope is that the Texas Education Agency provides us with a little bit more flexibility there so that we could provide additional options in regard to that. But based on the current expectations of the Texas Education Agency, those are not easily attainable for each and every one of our courses that we would need to be able to provide for all of our students that are remote. So I definitely understand where you're coming from in the question there, and it would be great to simply be able to record the lesson and have those available and students engage in those activities the following day. However, that's not the flexibility that we've been given currently from the Texas Education Agency.
No, I'm not asking for the following day. I'm not asking to change any curriculum or anything like that. I'm just asking to watch it later on that day when the parents go home to monitor and make sure it's working right. Not changing any of your ideas. I'm just asking, can we do it at a time that's feasible for the kids, for the parents to be there?
Right, and I would go back to the Texas Education Agency requires there to be that two-way live instruction if you don't have every assignment mapped out for every activity mapped out for each and every day of the school year. That is their current guidance when it comes to the asynchronous plans.
Mr. White, is that correct, Mr. White?
Yes, sir.
I was in the classroom for over 30 years, and the virtual would drive me nuts if I had to teach it, if I could not talk to the kid when I'm teaching and get an understanding. And I understand what you're saying about shift work and all that, but in my heart, I could let a kid leave my room if he didn't understand something that we were doing. And that's the same way with the virtual. If you were able to do it for recording, then I wouldn't be able to answer his questions right away. If it was something that we were moving forward with, you might be a day or two behind. And so my big deal is the choices you guys have to make are unbelievable. But the part about the live part is the teacher is able to say, okay, you understand, I don't understand, what do I need to do here? And if something happens and your child doesn't understand, without the teacher, you're watching it, or he's watching it on your wife at home or something, he may lose something, just one context or something, that could create a whole loss of knowledge a little bit there. So, that's the only reason, and I would have to, I don't know, I'd have to pull my hair out if I had to teach virtual, if I couldn't talk to the kids and be sure they understood what we were doing.
That's the impact also. John might understand it and Tim may not understand it. You know, he gets home, talk to the parents may explain it differently. So you have a problem face to face or virtual. So that's not, I don't think that's an issue.
As a teacher, to me, it would be an issue not to be able to talk to kids face to face live to do it. And I'm not, I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying from a teacher standpoint, my point is with you. And I'm not sure about face to face either, but in virtual, I think it's good if there's just a way that we can be more personal. But that's the part about recording. But like I said, if you and your wife are watching something and we're going to be going over the recording with your student, if something was said in the class that was not completely understood, then they can ask the teacher right away, and that way both of y'all will be confused, and then it'd be a day late getting back to the teacher to find out what the issue was or what the question would be. That's the only point I'm trying to make. It's a tough situation.
What grade? Third one. Yeah, I think I'm a third grader both here. You know, high school is different. You know, high school, they're going to do what they do. But elementary, I can help a third grader do 5 plus 5, 10 times 10. You know, that's a problem. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hi. My question about the masks that were talked about. The CDC recommending masks for people 10 and older. And then you had said, I believe, that all students would be wearing masks all the time. Does that include all elementary that are younger than 10 years of age all over the day?
I'll try to answer that one. That's a good one. The reason we say mask is as much as reasonably possible is we know, and the Texas School Safety has a wonderful program, video on this. We want kids to wear the mask as much as possible during the school day. Now, what does that actually mean? That means that throughout the day, if they're interacting with other kids in close proximity, we expect a mask. If they're walking down the hall, we expect a mask. But we know that 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds wearing a mask 100% of the time is not going to happen. Okay? So the best way I can say that, it's our charter territory right now with us and kids at school with masks on, and we're going to try to do everything we can to protect, because my mask protects you, your mask protects me. So we're going to do everything we can to try to have those masks on as much as reasonably possible, but we know that they're going to be off sometimes. Kids need a break. They're going to pull it off, put it back on. But we have to protect the other students in the room and the teachers and the staff in the room, so we're going to wear them as much as we can. So I don't know if that answered your question, because again, we've not seen this yet, and we know it's going to be very, very difficult, especially for the little guys. And the options are there if students can wear the mask. The virtual option is there, but also if the student has an underlying medical condition as well, that will be considered. But our teachers and our administrators on our campus are amazing at helping people understand reasonable, and that's going to be part of their back-to-school step development, is looking at what is reasonable for students. So we'll clarify those guidelines even further before we start.
And those guidelines, along with the virtual handbook that you're putting together, those will be released to parents as they are approved and developed, or when will we get to see those?
The virtual...
You were talking about the
virtual handbook?
Yes.
Yeah, I know the principals are trying to finalize that tomorrow evening. So this week,
it should be on before the week.
Again, what we want to do is we want to have participation from our teachers because they're the ones who work closest with our students. We want to make sure that handbook's the best possible handbook we can get out. So we're not going to rush it. I mean, our goal is to get out this week of what we have, but we've been making sure we're doing it the best way we possibly can.
One other question. I know in your original letter last week, you had asked parents to register for either in-person or remote by this past Friday. I was just wondering if you had any early tallies on what it's looking like for the district with regard to in-person or remote enrollment.
Yeah, we do actually. And I'm sorry, just to clarify, we just needed people to register that were registering for virtual. If you've already registered your child regularly online and you want to go face-to-face, you didn't need to do anything. So you just needed, it was just a virtual student registration. So currently, again, in the deadline, we just said as soon as possible, so it helps us with staffing decisions and assignments for students and teachers. The parents actually have until October 4th is the drop dead date. Thank you. Yeah, we may be there next week, but not today. So, anyway, I'm sorry.
How many students?
Oh, how many students? Thank you. So, before we came to the meeting, I looked at it, and we've had 1,700 students sign up virtually, which is approximately 15%.
And are you seeing, for my case, I have a 9th grader, a 7th grader, and a 3rd grader.
Yeah.
The 3rd grader, I want to send back to face-to-face, but I don't want him in school wearing a mask all day. The 7th and the 9th grader, I'm more inclined to do remote. Are you seeing how are you seeing that breakdown across the grade levels, I should say? Or is it pretty even?
It's pretty even, and it's pretty even all across the district. I mean, pretty much the same percent of students at each campus. Right now, it's pretty low right now, only 15%, but it was a little surprising to us that it was pretty much the same percent across all campuses as far as the percent considered to the total school population.
So that's 15% of the total school populations at this time are electing for remote learning? Okay, that's still a significant number.
Yeah, I just think that it really feel higher when we did a survey in June about when parents selected, at that time, of course, things changed rapidly in June when we had asked the parents what are the 3 options would you select at school, hybrid, or at home. At that time, 25% of the parents said I would select at home. And so we're not there yet. We may, if I was anticipating really 25 to 35%, but it could be lower, it could be higher.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Rancy, can I ask a clarifying question on that? Because I was looking at the numbers, and the 15% is of the total enrollment, right?
Yes, sir.
But we only have, not at July 7th, my numbers show that we only received about 54% responses back.
Correct.
So, I guess 2 questions. One, what's the effort to try to get, that percentage up? Otherwise, we're going to kind of be whipping in the dark here if we're not careful. How? Because it looks like of the responses, about 25% have said they want to do virtual. That was from the survey.
That was from the survey, which is different than actual enrollment.
No, this is like 25% of those who have returned the survey said they want to be virtual. So, but that leaves another. Well, my number is about 46% that had responded. So, to me, that's a big gap, and we've got to be careful about as far as the number of teachers virtually and face to face. So,
Right.
This is why we're asking them to register as soon as possible.
Yeah, like I said, we only ask the students that are going to choose virtual to register. So right now it's 1,700, so that's approximately 15% of our district population. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, I've got one.
At the high school level, if you choose virtual learning, how do you incorporate UIL, sports, and CTE classes that maybe have a lab or something?
So on to the CTE class question. There will of course be several courses that are CTE, for instance, welding would be a great example, that cannot be done remotely. So students that have a course that cannot be provided remotely, the counselor from those campuses will reach out to have a conversation with the family about options. Those options might include selecting alternative courses. They might include potentially being present for that course in person. It kind of depends on what the priorities for the family are there in relation to those CTE electives and other electives that may not be able to be offered in a virtual format. UIL?
I can talk. As far as UIL participation, yes, absolutely. Right now, if you're a virtual learner, you are eligible to participate in UIL activities. So is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I think you answered it. So there are some flex options there if a student can get to and from.
Yes. If they're able to, transportation will not be provided on those, and that will be a barrier, we know. But given the times of day throughout the day, especially for those varsity level or upper level students, that option will be made available for those students.
All right, great, thank you.
If it's virtual, you would be able to come to that PE class, whatever you are.
So for instance, people could come for a CTE class and then go home and do English, math, and history virtually.
No, I saw that hand. Yes, ma'am. And I should have done this for our two prior. No, go ahead. Come on. Our two prior. But if you would just state your name and then your question, please.
My name is Julie Jones, and just so you know, I have a 9th grader. No, sorry, she's going into 10th, 7th, 4th, 2nd, 1st. Ethnic grades. So I do have a gamut, and yes, all grades. I have a gamut, so my questions kind of are all over. My first one was anything considered other than Google Meet for the online learning? Because, I'm sorry, this is bothering me. Google Meet was a terrible experience for us during the fall or spring. Mainly because of, as more students got on, the less you could, the clarity got worse and worse. And I know that's not a problem because my husband works consistently from home with lots of people on a different platform that does work. Same with my daughter, she has a different platform. So has anything been considered besides Google Meet?
It might be the Chromebooks and not the Google Meets, because when I had my son log in to the Google Meet, he on his Chromebook, he was struggling and glitching, and that's what I'm talking about. When I had him log into my tablet, smooth like this.
Yeah, that didn't work either for us. That's why I was wondering.
So we have evaluated a few other options as it relates to live video instruction. However, with us utilizing Chromebooks, us utilizing being a Google-based district, Google Hangouts really is the most seamless integration of those. So I would definitely encourage, I would definitely encourage if issues continue, we do have a help desk number that would be available during remote. I would encourage you to reach out to there. I also know that we will be working to provide professional development to all our teachers to enhance the remote experience. So part of it could have been that it was a learning experience for everyone, right? One of the key things that we also did at the 5th through 8th grade level for summer school was we utilized Google Meets to actually deliver summer school to 5th through 8th graders remotely and live. And that experience was a very positive one for teachers as well. They actually had a 2-hour block with students where they were engaging in with activities. And the Google Meets with multiple students as they begin to do that regularly and participate, have students, they develop those systems and protocols that helped there be more clarity during the time. So a combination of professional development there.
Okay, great. Great information. Also, I have a question concerning the individualized plans. It was addressed that they would, whether they were on campus or off campus, that those would still be addressed. I have a question, it's a little specific, but I think it would help others. What about those who are needing to be assessed to receive those accommodations? Because as of March, what day did we stop? 17th, somewhere around there? Those assessments stopped as well. So are those type of assessments going to be able to start rolling forward now that we are back in school?
Actually, they shouldn't have stopped. We've had to follow the IEP procedures. The state mandates us to do that. So we've been assessing actually throughout the summer for eligibility and trying to provide the resources that we should for our students.
Okay.
I see disagreement.
I've been told by several that I'm in contact with that they were shocked that my son cannot get assessed yet due to COVID.
Okay,
I will work again.
no, our special education director is here. I'd like her to address the question. If you could go up near the mic, please.
We can talk after this meeting, if you don't mind. But you should have been contacted if you had a special education evaluation that was placed on hold. If you have not been, please see me afterwards because we have had to cut off the evaluation follow-up. If it is a 504 evaluation, those would be followed up on campuses as we started out at the beginning of the school year.
Thank you. And then, sorry, I'm reading my notes that I need. I think that's actually my last question. Oh, no, I'm sorry. About high school level, do we know what classes will not be available for the online learning? I know the gentleman talked about that, but when will we see a list, I guess?
So that is a wonderful question. And as far as a list, so with there being over 300 courses that are there, so let me back up for a second. Traditionally, our high schools do course selection processes in the spring, where students are able to select different courses that they want to enroll in. There's a whole other 3 or 4 months that go into the development of the courses that we're going to offer. As campuses look at the courses that students have selected, then they're able to determine whether or not those courses will actually make. So for instance, we probably wouldn't offer welding if only one student selected welding, right? So right now, we are in the month of July, and school will be starting in August. And a 3-month process now has to be condensed down to a matter of weeks, right? So once we see how many students have selected different virtual courses, those courses are going to be all over the place. So the campuses will have to determine what courses do they actually have demand to be able to offer virtually. So for me to tell you that we could provide you a list of courses that we're certain we will be able to provide or not provide, I honestly cannot share that with you simply because we don't know the demand yet for the different courses. And we want to be able to maximize the courses that we are being able to provide for those students. Now, there are certain courses, like I mentioned earlier, like welding, for instance. Those are going to have to be hands-on. I would anticipate that for most cases, courses that every student has to take for a grade level, like algebra, biology, these are courses that you can definitely rest assured will be provided virtually. But for many of the electives, that's why if a question's been asked through just ask, the answer that I share is that a counselor from the campus will reach out to discuss those options with you, simply because we are excited to be able to provide a plethora of options for our students. But being able to get down to the precise, is this course offered or not, in many cases it's going to depend on how many students actually go remote and have selected that course. So I wish I had a better answer for you, but unfortunately this time I don't.
Do you know how close, though, towards the school year that will be? Like, will it be like a week before, days before, the day of?
So we actually called our counselors back early this week so that they could begin tallying tracking how many students so far have selected different courses and things along those lines to be able to offer those. So campuses are working through the list of those potentials and are going to do their best to reach out as soon as they can. The intent will definitely be to communicate with you before your kids are there. As far as the precise date, it'll be as soon as we can, if we know that a course is going to be able to be offered.
Okay, great, I appreciate that.
Any other hands? Yes, ma'am.
Hey, my name's Lindsay. Couple questions. I've got pre-K in 3rd and 8th, 5th, so all littles. First, just a clarification, basically for if the teacher or student were to test positive into, part of my kid's classroom. That, we're sending the classroom home, we're quarantining that, or we just wait for people to have symptoms and then send them home selectively?
Okay, so the CDC guidelines contact tracing for individuals who have tested positive for COVID. And so, if I'm understanding you, there won't be action. We'll notify you if an individual has tested positive for COVID. And then we will assess in every way possible who was in close contact with that student throughout the day. In the case of an elementary teacher who more than likely is in close contact regularly, you would be notified that your student, there's basically two things that are going to happen. One's going to be campus-wide, you'll receive a notification. The second will be is if your student has been determined to be in contact with that individual, then you'll be contacted with a second letter.
And so do we have the option at that point to go ahead and keep our kid home for a couple of weeks until we make sure it's
The
not
close contact?
Right, yes.
Yeah, be required as an individual close contact for 14 days quarantine.
Okay. All right, just clarification on that.
Yeah.
Second question, my kids are super excited to be back to school. They've been asked about school for sure, right? Never did I ever think that would happen, but it has. Outdoor and PE. I mean, I know they want to get our school, they want to get to learning, but that's going to be important too. Is there an option for that? I mean, go outside and go play, there's no playground.
Yes, in fact, the outdoor activities is encouraged for all students. And most of the guidance that we've received does include students being outdoors in open spaces. And certainly, they may have more outdoor activities than they've ever had. So, and I know the teachers want to get them outside.
Thank you for the homework question. My second grader had a lot of homework last year, so that will help. The first day of school thing, does that go to, because I've got a very Brazosport account? Or is that going to be on the same plan that maybe we set up meetings so they can go in and at least explore school a little bit first too?
The principal at Rasco will send out information to parents from, parents from Rasco shortly, like within the next week or so, regarding Meet the Teacher. The availability to do appointments by class doesn't quite work with 5th graders because you'd have a team of teachers, right? And so it would be logistically pretty difficult to rotate those 800 kids through there in a socially distant way. So the short answer is no, but the long answer is that, just like Mr. Schwartner said, we're going to be very, very deliberate with the back-to-school activities. So we go back to school, I think, on a Wednesday is kids' first day back. So typically that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is all procedures, and then the next week teachers start taking grades and issuing assignments and things like that. That period of training students and getting to know everybody and learning how to re-socialize with other kids is going to be a huge aspect of what happens and very deliberately built into it. So Ms. Klein is the principal at Rasco, and she'll be sending out an email communication just as soon as we get School Messenger up and running.
Okay. Follow-up question to Rasco though, and I'm sorry, I'm just a planner since this one.
No problem.
School supplies. I don't have the list posted for that.
I don't have an answer for you. Let me find out, and I'll
Thank you for this ask. That was awesome. I had a lot of questions answered and
Yes, ma'am, in the back row.
You can hear me. My name is Donna Kenny, and I'm director at a school-age childcare center in Lake Johnson. And so we've been working with the school for over 20 years. I am responsible for delivering and picking up 40+ children every day. My concern, and I'm trying to help my parents who are trying to make a decision as far as pick up for their kinder, first getting out at 3:35 and there's things saying, well, you can't pick up to 4:05. Is there any flexibility? I also have 3 special needs children we pick up. They were riding the bus, but they were getting to us in an hour or more after school, which is a long time. So, I don't know why we can't pick up earlier. At Brandon West, I picked up 17 kids. So we're picking up large groups, and we pick up at 7 different schools at this time. And I know what the decision was that childcare centers would have to pick up at the 4 or 5 time frame, and what are they going to do with our kinder, first, second grades during that time? And most of them probably ate at 11 o'clock, so are they going to get a snack or?
Ms. Kenny, I don't have a perfect answer for you right now, but I will say that we'll have to look at coordinating. And, I guess I'm assuming that you're going to use the same protocols on the vans with the mask and everything.
Yes, so it will limit how many we are transporting at a time. These siblings, I can sit together, all of us, windows open, when the bed stand sanitized.
So one of our commitments is that the siblings could leave with you together.
Yes.
Okay, so we talked about that.
Yeah, but I have if I have 17 kids at a center, then I'm all siblings.
Right, so the answer I can give you is that we're going to try our best to coordinate. I can't give you that answer tonight. We're going to try to work with the families, but it might be that if the family is totally dependent on that we may have to do some extra routes. If you pick up, I don't know, if you just have one van, that's going to be impossible.
No, we have 3 vehicles that go out, but, I can't get to all those. I usually have everybody back within 25 minutes of school getting let out. But I have to go, if I'm going out to school 5 to pick everybody up, which is how we usually do it, I'm just concerned about my young kids.
We may have to make an exception for you if you're going to go. Like I know when I help Ms. Trader do bus duty here, sometimes we cut into instruction because this van has to pick up these children.
Right.
And so that we'll just have to work with you to ensure that.
So should I deal with each school separately?
I would, and I can help make that contact, so once we know how many kids and the siblings, then we can try to map it out for each school. Okay, but our staggering times, we're trying to encourage our bus riders to be car riders now, just to keep the social distancing on the bus. So we may have more car riders and bus riders, and you can get through the lane quicker.
Yeah, because we do have to get behind the buses, and we are always waiting on them.
Right.
But schools are waiting for us to pick up, we don't like to have to wait late.
Right, but it might be that we have another spot for you to pick up.
Okay.
So we're working out tirelessly. They're working out the logistics of which door we're going to go out of, and it may be even a side door that we've never used before.
Okay.
So afford us that opportunity to coordinate with you and Acre.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, we're going to work with you.
Okay, that's all I need. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your questions, and please continue to use this ask. Thank you for coming tonight. We view you as a partner, and we want to serve and support your child. So thank you for coming.
All right. Next item that we have under our reports is Report C, the 2019-2020 District Improvement Plan Fourth Quarter Review. Mr. Redmond.
Good evening. In accordance with board policy copy of the board book. The fourth quarter review is the summative evaluation of the district improvement plan. Despite the closure brought on by COVID-19, we're continuing on meeting targets for this year. Yeah. Departments reported meeting or exceeding the targets for 11 of 20 of our performance objectives and made significant progress on 5 others. The COVID-19 closure had the most impact on our student outcome goals. Since STAR testing was suspended and high school students were unable to take college entrance and industry-based certification exams for most of the spring, those objectives did not have data needed to evaluate them. Strategies are evaluated during the final quarter as accomplished, continued, modified, or discontinued. Accomplished meaning that 100% of the strategy was successfully implemented. Continued, modified meaning that the strategy will be continued as written form with modifications. Discontinued meaning that the strategy has been fully implemented or the need to address it no longer exists. Of the 111 strategies in this year's plan, 78 or 70.3% were accomplished. 29 or 26.1% were continued or will be continued or modified, and 4 or 3.6% were discontinued. Despite the interruption to our improvement efforts under Goal 1 that was caused by the COVID-19 closure, the work continued in early literacy, STAR reading and math, student success on EOC exams, and student attainment of CCMR credit. Some of the strategies that were accomplished are highlighted on this slide. Early childhood teachers received support from the early literacy specialists as they continued their work to improve the implementation of the early childhood curriculum. Elementary reading and English language arts teachers received training and support in implementing instructional methods for struggling readers and writers, while math teachers received training and received resources to implement daily number talks and fact fluency. To address the need to improve high school English 1 and 2 EOC scores, especially for those students with special needs, the district provided training in blended learning, reaching rigor, and connecting standards. The district also provided targeted professional development for unique learning and universal design for learning to equip teachers to meet the needs of special education students. The Read 180 and System 44 reading intervention programs were provided to students with substantial reading gaps, and the Y-Try curriculum resources were provided to teachers along with training. I'd be remiss if I did not commend the efforts of our teachers, principals, specialists, coordinators, directors, and cabinet level leaders to shift from in-school to at-home learning in a remarkably short period of time. Their work this spring to ensure that students had access to the curriculum from home during our closure exemplified our district beliefs that every child deserves the highest quality education and everyone is accountable for student success. All 3 of the performance objectives under Goal 2, Brazosport ISD learning environments will be safe and conducive to learning, were met. Strategies to support those performance objectives included providing character education lessons, creating community partnerships that families can use to access outside counseling services, and continuing our partnerships with True to Life Ministries, communities and schools, and Boys and Girls Clubs of Brazoria County to provide mentoring, social services, and after-school care to students. Additionally, BISD campuses were named as No Place for Hate campuses because of their implementation of capturing kids' hearts. We continue to provide additional security support to secondary school campuses using campus safety and security specialists. Staff received training to evaluate potential threats to school security and on how to address them through appropriate response and intervention. School personnel were also trained in how to identify and assist victims of human trafficking. Those are just a few of the sessions provided by the Administrative Services team. The safety and well-being of our students and staff remains a high priority and focus for our district. The district completed the implementation of Phase 1 of the Grow Our Own program that focuses on recruiting and supporting the development of teacher candidates from district campuses. This program continued as an ongoing district initiative. second cohort of candidates was screened this spring. This is just one of the strategies found under Goal 3. Brazosport ISD will recruit, develop, and retain highly effective staff. Other initiatives included ongoing effort to establish partnerships with university and colleges in order to increase the number of student teachers on our campuses. This was accomplished with Texas State and UT San Antonio were added to our list of partner schools. This strategy will also continue next year with a new focus on student placements from our partner universities, an effort that was interrupted when we closed with COVID-19. Part of retaining excellent staff is to provide quality training. Over the last 4 years, the curriculum and instruction team worked to identify, align, and focus resources on professional development activities that address district needs and high-impact priorities. Even when closed for COVID-19, professional development continued remotely. This year, 87% of teachers said that the professional development we offered was relevant to their content area, and 96% said that they implemented the professional development strategies that they received from district staff. In BISD, we value the contributions of our staff. Staff all over the district engaged in providing remarkable remote learning opportunities to our students. Staff in technology, instructional technology, transportation, and child nutrition were on the front lines of our district efforts. By fully implementing Empower Ed by the end of last year, the district was in a position to turn from at-school to at-home learning in a matter of hours, not weeks. The deployment of Chromebooks and hotspots happened rapidly because of the hard work and commitment of the technology team led by Technology Director David Mendoza. The district's technology specialists, with support from Instructional Technology Coordinator Lindsay Blackstock, produced an amazing number of videos to support every aspect of the rollout of remote learning and did it in only a few short days. The Transportation Department, under the leadership of Director John Craig, made sure that buses and drivers were available to support a massive meal distribution process throughout the closure period. Last but certainly not least, our Child Nutrition Department distributed more than 350,000 meals to children all over the district. At some point, the COVID-19 pandemic will wane and eventually go away. But the efforts of these frontline people will live on in the storied history of our district. 5 years ago, the Board of Trustees established a goal that BISD will promote, communicate, and market the accomplishments, achievements, and successes of students and staff. Over the past 5 years, the district has put an ambassador program in place, promoted our district and the accomplishments of staff and students through events, the website, publications, board meetings, recognition banquets, and social media, and provided ongoing ambassadors and first impression training to frontline personnel. The district also continued to host 4 Leadership BISD Academy training sessions for business and community members. All of these were strategies included in this year's district improvement plan, and they were all accomplished. This concludes my report on the 4th quarter of the district improvement plan. Since this is a report, board action is not required. At this time, I'm happy to answer any clarifying questions you may have.
Do we have questions from the board? Audience? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Next item that we have on our agenda is report D. Bond planning and construction update. Mr. Cotton.
Good evening. In accordance with board policy CD local, it is my pleasure to present the 2014 and 19 bond programs planning and construction update. As of July 20th, total POs issued of $145,237,000, or approximately 83.0% completed or in progress for the 2019 bond. I said that wrong, 2014 bond. For the 2019 bond program, total POs issued of $148 million, or approximately 55.4% completed or in progress. Current projects under construction: Roberts and Brandon Elementaries, New Brazosport Fieldhouse, CTE building, and the main campus Roberts and Brandon will be opening in August, and we can take those off the list. Roberts Elementary is in this photograph. This is a drone photo that was taken late last week. As you can see, we now have the parking lot in place. That's always a good sign. We beat the rain. We still have the stacking lanes to get in, as well as the exit from the front drive. This is the obviously the marquee that was lit up this week. And this is a photograph from the front looking towards the front entry. You can see in the background the grass that's in place, the irrigation is in place, as well as some of the landscaping. This is the side of the school, and you can see the playgrounds that are in place and all the fencing. This is in the front entry looking in the vestibule looking towards the front office. And this is looking towards the Kiva and the Media Center. This is inside the Media Center, and you can see that the shelving is in place, and the books will be in the shelves soon. This is also looking from the Media Center out towards the front entry. And this is the makerspace. And this is the wet lab. This wet lab, if you recall, has windows all through it. The blinds are closed just to get a good photograph. This is looking toward just outside of the stairs and the elevators and the stream lab. This is one of the typical teacher workstations that is in each corridor. This is a typical classroom. The teachers have started coming in groups, in smaller groups, starting to set up their classrooms and unpack their boxes. Another typical classroom. And this is one of the collaboration areas. This is looking from the second floor down into the media center. And this is looking at the stage from the gymnasium. Brandon Elementary is moving along as well. We have moved into the school. The teachers will be coming in at a yet to be determined date to start unpacking and setting up their classrooms. We want to get the punch list done with the contractors and the architects before the teachers start coming in. This is from the east end of the school, and you can see the circle drive to the left. That's the bus pickup and drop off, and at the lower part of the picture, towards the middle right, is the stacking lane for one of the two stacking lanes. And in the upper part of the picture is where the old school was. The detention pond is in place, and we should start. You can see the stacking lanes, how they come in kind of parallel to each other, and then circle around to the front of the school and then exits out. That concrete is not in place yet, but it will be soon. Here's the marquee, of course, the front entry. Another view of the front entry. As you can see, landscaping has progressed very well over there. All the grass is in place, the trees are planted, and the playgrounds are underway. The playgrounds are underway at both campuses. This is the back of the school just outside of the media center. And this is looking from the vestibule into the front office. This is looking just inside the main area of the school, looking towards the office and the vestibule. This is the Kiva looking towards the media center. This is the media center. The library shelves are there. They're not quite in their exact spots yet. This is the stage from the gymnasium. And this is in the cafeteria looking towards the kitchen. This is looking towards the stairs in the stream lab. And this is a typical corridor. I can't remember what grade level that is. And this is typical teacher workstation. And this is outside the group restrooms, just across from the teacher workstation. This is a classroom. All the furniture is in place. You can see the boxes in the left part of the photograph. That's all the teacher belongings that were moved in. This is a collaboration area. And again, Brandon's moving along very well, considering where we are this time of year. Every day it changes drastically. So we'll be ready for the teachers very soon. The Brazosport Multi-Sport Field House is moving along very well. I know everybody drives by there daily and can see the rapid progress on that project. This is a drone photograph looking from the main campus that's at the bottom right of the picture, and then Slade Field, of course, is for that. This is looking just the other direction, and over at the main campus, you can see where there's still a little bit of cafeteria left, but it's all gone now. This is the view of the front entry, and this is looking towards the balcony, and Slade Field is over to the left. This is inside the vestibule, looking towards the office and reception area. And this is inside the receptionist office. We've already got millwork in place and flooring. And this is in the Champions Corridor, and the window to the left, and that's the windows that look into the weight room. And up above is the balcony that looks down into that corridor. This is a view from the other direction, looking into the weight room. The white area that you see to the left is where a very large graphic will go. There's a lot of graphics that go into this building. And so you'll be able to, it goes all the way up to the second floor. And this is a view of that same area from the second floor, looking down. This is the weight room. The flooring should be going in very soon. It's actually already on site. And this is a typical coaches suite where the different coaches will be sitting. And this is a typical coach's restroom. And this is an area where the students would be picking up their laundry and dropping it off. And this is the other side of that, where the laundry is done and then put into the lockers. The laundry equipment is in. And this is a typical shower area, and it's the epoxy flooring and there's a lot of epoxy flooring in this building, and it's turned out really nice. This is upstairs in the training rooms that has the partition down the middle of it that can be either open or closed. And then this is outside of the balcony. And then that's looking from the balcony over to Slade Field. Brazosport CTE also is moving along very well. These both from Fieldhouse and CTE building, these photographs were taken last week, actually 2 weeks ago. And the roof decking is already going on, so we should start seeing roofing material going on quickly after that, and hopefully get the building dried in. This is a view from the other direction. And this is just seeing the steel that's going up, or has gone up, I should say. And then this is up on the second floor. You can see the 9th grade center over to the right. Brazosport main campus. This is the new parking lot. I'm putting all the parking lot areas and all that over with main campus, even though some of these were actually part of the C2G project. This is the parking lot over closest to the baseball field, and it's right at Brazosport Drive. They've already got it striped and ready. And this is the new band practice field. It was an existing parking lot, but we made some modifications to it. The band tower is already in place, actually the area that used to be the bus lane, bus pickup and drop off. That's now where we've got it fenced off, and the new building will actually go out that far away from the existing building. And there's a covered walkway that goes around outside of there that the students will be routed around. This is a view towards where the cafeteria and main gym were. And this is the gym where where the cafeteria and main gym, looking towards the 9th grade center and the athletic facilities that remain. This is something that I'm really excited to see, is these water towers going away. It will make a huge difference when they're gone. This is the new temporary cafeteria that was made out of the auditorium. It's turned out very nice. It's got a lot of lighting in it, and it's level. And this is where the cafeteria was torn down, where it attached to the existing building. So I just wanted to show the nice job that they did filling in all of that with block, and it's painted, and it turned out really nice. I will be happy to answer any questions you have at this time.
Yes, sir.
So, given our project has slowed down at all in this regard?
No, sir. Just the rain.
I mean, probably how many people we have working for this on any given day?
For example, at Brandon, they're working overtime and all, or have been working overtime and all of that. It's dropped down a little bit just because of the trades that have finished and all, but for a while there, they had over 800 contractors there every day. And typically on an average day without Corona and all that, it would be more like 75 or 80. But it has not slowed down at all. I mean, there's been a couple of reports of positive cases, but it's been very random and sporadic. Well, actually 2 out of all of those projects that are going on. And most of the subcontractors are coming out of Houston.
We have that on 14 on major plans, not, you know. And how much technology is us? Is there anything major? Any other questions? Audience? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next item we have under reports is report E, the freshman cohort credits. Mr. Cole.
Good evening. In alignment with Board Policy EH local, Brazosport ISD students now become goal 4, and our district goal Brazosport ISD will provide a rigorous and relevant learning experience to ensure that every student will be future ready. I will present an update this evening on freshman credits earned by our first-time freshman cohort 2020 students. The district goal for our first-year freshmen reads, the percentage of first-year freshman students who earn 6 or more credits will increase from 89% to 95% by the year 2020. This slide shows the data from the last 5 school years, and in the last column, this year's data. You will notice that we have met the goal of 95%. A graphical representation of this data is shown on the next slide. The gray columns represent the district's percent of cohort freshmen earning 6 or more credits since the 14-15 school year. The red line represents Brazosport High School's percentage, and the Buccaneer blue line represents Brazosport's percentage. While there was a very slight dip last year, both campuses have restructured their monitoring and intervention plans this year, which showed positive results indicated by the upward spike of this current school year. As a district, we have just 33 students who did not earn 6 or more credits prior to the start of this coming school year. The success our students are seeing and the ability to meaningfully intervene is due in large part to the board's support. This includes professional learning community time when teachers are meeting on these campuses and focusing on the results of student learning. The addition of collaborative time during the school day for core freshman teachers to plan with their colleagues, teaching the same course has made a significant difference and continues to do so. The team leadership course that was added a few years ago for freshmen continues to provide a strong academic and social and emotional foundation for our first-year freshmen as they build new connections with teachers and classmates during this crucial year of high school. Both campuses have actively used their Capturing Kids' Hearts training, which shows staff how to create high-achieving centers of learning by strengthening students' connectedness to others through enhancing healthy bonds with their teachers and establishing collaborative agreements of acceptable behavior. Our partnership with True to Life Ministries has also benefited our freshman students through the addition of student success coaches and Club Belay as supports to improve connectedness and social emotional supports. We are excited about the progress that has been made over these last several years towards finally reaching our goal of over 95% of freshman cohort students earning 6 or more credits. This information is report only. No board action is required. At this time, I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from the board? Mr. Atkins?
What's our next goal?
That's a great question. Well, we started this evening with some of the student outcome goals based on our early literacy, numeracy, and college career military readiness. So we're excited to continue those goals. I know that they provide a great focus for our district as we move forward. This was an amazing goal. Great to see the progress that the board will set for us and help us to focus in on.
Of the 33 students, what options do they have presented or forced upon them, or whatever term you want to use, to get them caught up into their sophomore year?
So many of the students, every situation is different among those 33, and those 33 have very unique reasons for why they were not successful, right? So some of those students will find success next year, potentially in the Brazosport Success Academy, which is a much smaller campus designed to help kids get back on track. I know many of you have had the opportunity to participate in their graduation ceremony, and many students that go there eventually find that they love it and they want to stay there through graduation. So for many of our students, Brazosport Success Academy will be an option that they will be exploring next year. Some students may continue to find success at their home campus, especially if this was an exception to a normal year for them. But the Brazosport Success Academy tends to be the option that works best for many of the students that find themselves far behind.
So do they, is there a counselor assigned to those who stay at their home campus? Or, willy-nilly, or do we have someone who can stay close with them and work with them and refer them to the lay club or whatever options there are? How do we address those who stay on their home campus?
Absolutely. Students that would stay on their home campus, the counselors are definitely going to be aware of who those students are, because they're going to be wanting to watch them closely help move them forward. We have additional supports in the forms of licensed professional counselors that have been added, additional administrators, teachers, and like some of the True to Life Ministries partnerships that we discussed. Those are great ways to get plugged in. And one of the key indicators that we know that helps demonstrate students' success is when students get plugged in and feel part of their school. So they are definitely on their counseling radar. Yes, sir.
So those who may need the little extra for the licensed professional group, I guess taken care of?
Oh, absolutely. Not just for students, not just for these 33 students, right, that might need some additional social and emotional support for their home campuses, but for any student that may need additional support from an LPC. Those LPCs are there to provide that support.
So we have a goal for next year?
email. It's in the news.
I would like to say, Mr. Yotis and Principal Pinball, both here, that's just extraordinary efforts on our high school teachers to ensure those kids are, I mean, that's all, you see how far we've come in that. And we set that goal because, as you remember, just how important it is to get the kids graduated, to get out of the ninth grade. That really increases their chances. To make 10th grade really increases kids' chance to graduate. And so that's something we've worked on for the last 4 years, and to see those numbers like that, we only have 33 kids. And I guess if we were to look at those, I would think the number one factor related to that is attendance, which we have very little control of, unfortunately, for those kids. But it's a remarkable number. Thank you, Mr. Yotis, Principal Pinball.
Yeah, that's outstanding. That makes a difference. That the freshman year makes a difference, so that they are not trying to fall behind. So, yeah, it's extra. It's definitely thank you for the secondary and we thank you for the early success and wrapping that up too. So.
Any other comments from the board, from the audience? All right, Mr. Cole, thank you, sir. Next item on our agenda, reports, is our board committee reports. Other than staying at home, is there anything?
I think we should do a shout out for all those people who just all these guys have answered all these just asked questions. I'm a little surprised that there's not been a lot of people. So hopefully, quick answer. I know some of the answers are difficult because we just don't know. That's the thing. So, but hopefully, at least we can tell. So I think outstanding job. So they keep coming in. So keep them coming.
There are none other than next item we have our next regular scheduled board meeting will be August 17th, although we do have a special call meeting on the 3rd. Next item that we have is executive session. It can be called for the purposes permitted by the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Section 551.001 through 551.146, Sections 551.071, consultation with attorney, Section 551.074, personnel matters, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, dismissal, and complaint. We'll be back.
We will now reconvene for the executive session. The time is too late. 10:55. All right. We have next item on our agenda is action item A, considering the superintendent's evaluation, the superintendent's contract amendment, and related actions.
I move that we give Danny the same, Mr. Massey the same raise as our teacher, 2% bonus paid in, that are supposed to be paid. One-time payment, 2%.
Second. It's been moved, it's been seconded, moved by Scott, seconded by Joe. All those in favor, please say aye. Unless there are any questions, we will stand adjourned at 10:57. Thank you all.